There is a cute red speeder at the BC Forest Discovery Centre. That's in North Cowichan on Vancouver Island. It's used by the railway crew for track work on the narrow gauge Cowichan Valley Railway, which is where a visitor train is run. The speeder's roster number is MC number 4. And it was possibly X of Canadian National, but definitely X Crown Zellerbach at their Nanaimo Lakes logging division. It's a DS-LS model speeder built in 1981 by the Railcar Company. It was standard gauge, but it was rebuilt and converted to narrow gauge by a volunteer crew here at the Forest Discovery Centre in 2022. I did a video explaining the conversion process, and it has lots of photographs from that project, and I've linked that in the description below. On a rainy day in early January 2025, we did a fun photo shoot with the speeder and work trailer and a few of the track crew, and the inspiration was to have fun doing photographs in a work setting, and I think we were inspired by railway track gang photographs from the late 1800s, which showed a very stoic, serious-looking crew posing with their equipment. So we tried to replicate that style. I had hoped to shoot lots of B-roll video showing us arriving at each scene and setting up for the photos, but the rain got in the way of that idea, and I could usually just manage one camera, keeping everything dry. But a couple times I got my phone out of my pocket and shot a bit of video, like this. And we'll stop. We chose this scene at the Diamond because of the small view of Somnos Lake in the background, just over the trailer. On a clear day, we'd be able to see Mount Zuhalem in that direction as well, and I like the power shovel equipment in the background. Then we backed it up a few feet so that we could get the yellow Fairmont speeder in the background. I like how sepia makes it look like an old era photograph. But if we add people and color, it's a modern day photograph. And here you can see that the Fairmont speeder is indeed yellow. The scenes on this day may have been just for show, but this is a real team who often worked together operating a steam locomotive. We moved up the track to Alderley Station and set up at the siding. Nice view of one of the passenger cars and the switch behind. This is what winter damp is like on the northwest coast of North America. This climate is beneficial for growing large trees, hence the forestry industry on Vancouver Island, and why we have a forest museum here. Speaking of the forest industry, here's a ranger station building on site here at the Forest Museum, and we posed the speeder at a grade crossing, which is at one of the maintenance roads on the site. And here it is in black and white, trying for an older look to the same scene, and add people. I had a lot of fun composing this scene, getting the various elements aligned, figuring out my angle and height. Yeah, that's exactly what we wanted to do on this day. A lot of fun. This video now shifts to the lower shop, which houses 3 steam locomotives that are all currently inactive. Earlier in the day, I observed the number plate being reattached to the number 25 Vulcan locomotive. It was getting dressed up for this photo session. This is a good time to mention that I forgot to change my camera's settings for white balance for being inside under some fluorescent or other kind of artificial light, so the color is off. The 25 is affectionately known as Samson by multiple generations of people who have visited the BC Forest Discovery Centre and ridden the visitor train pulled by this steam locomotive. In the roughly 60 years here at the Forest Museum, 47 of those years were spent pulling the visitor train, and the other 13 years were out of service, usually with expired certificates that required major work on the boiler. And that's the current situation. A rebuild of the boiler and a return of the number 25 to operational status pulling the visitor train is something that the Forest Museum wants. Lots of other people want that too, but the timing of all of that is uncertain. The other two locomotives in this lower shop are the number 3. It's a Shay. That was the Mayo Lumber Shay. It's standard gauge. And it's the one that started the Kettle Valley Steam Railway up in Summerland. I think that was in the 1990s. That was an on-loan situation, and when Summerland got their own permanent locomotive, the Shay was returned to North Cowichan. The third locomotive here is the number 9 Climax, and it was from Hillcrest Lumber, and the Stone family from Hillcrest Lumber donated it to the Forest Museum in 1968. It was operational for a few years during its time here at the Forest Museum. It would run up and down a short section of standard gauge track, but its main claim to fame was going to Rail Fair 1991 in Sacramento, California. Okay, now it's time to open up the lower shop doors and get ready to do some old-time style photographs. We've got a Vulcan, and a Shay, and a Climax. Okay, now we're ready for some classic poses with the 3 steam locomotives. I like how we have this set up, and here it is in color. I'm so happy with this. This scene really made the whole day worthwhile. And now we'll do poses in front of individual locomotives with the group of men. I always like how black and white is a nice contrast, and I can't help myself with leaving a splash of color on the number plate. We move over to the number 3 Shay, same group of people. These guys were good sports with their patience for me. I sure appreciate it. And now it's time for the number 9 Climax. This is great. Exactly what I was hoping for. And now it's time to introduce the red speeder to this scene, adding to the color of the composition. The locomotive on the far left is a Vulcan gasoline locomotive. It's been cosmetically restored. And I back out a bit for the overall view of all of this. On the far right is the number 9 Whitcomb diesel, which used to work at the Crofton pulp mill years ago. I like this overall scene, and you can see that the track with the speeder is narrow gauge. The middle track in front of me has both narrow and standard gauge, and the one on the right is standard gauge. And now the speeder's in the middle track and the narrow gauge part of it, giving us yet another different composition, close up with these locomotives in the background. And now let's add the crew, closing out this photo session. Thanks very much for watching this. I hope you enjoyed it. I sure enjoyed being part of this project with the idea of creating some photographs in the style of the late 1800s when rail crews would pose in a serious fashion with their equipment, which they were very proud of.